June the 12th, 2017, and nearly 40 Jaguar XKs gathered at the National Motor Museum, Bewley, for the opening stage of the XK Club Round Britain Coastal Drive in support of prostate cancer. After the successful inaugural year in 2016 with the E-Type Club, which raised £64,000, it was now the turn of the XKs. A little friendly inter-club rivalry meant that this year's participants were keen to exceed the E-Type Club's total. Some were planning to do the entire route, and dozens more were to dip in and out along the way of this epic journey. There was time for a few last-minute preparations as the anticipation grew, whilst motoring legend Murray Walker chatted with organisers and participants, always interested in other people and their pursuits. Murray performed the flagging away duties to the delight of participants, gathered enthusiasts and the press. All were there to witness the spectacle of 40 XKs purring and ready for the off. With some able marshalling by tour mechanics Andy Waters and Peter Stant of SNG Barrett, Murray flagged off at 30-second intervals. What an honour to be flagged away by such a legend, and a most fitting start for the opening stage of this event. Nearly 4,000 miles would see them take in the beauty of coastal Cornwall, Wales, the Lake District, Scotland and Yorkshire, heading clockwise around the country before returning to Bewley. Stage 1 began on exiting the National Motor Museum and heading into the New Forest. Challenging traffic through the towns was an early alert to the mix of open coastal roads and more urban environs. The overnight stop was just outside Exeter. Engines could cool, passengers rest. What a wonderful start. The Lord Mayor of Exeter, Councillor Mrs. Leslie Robson, thoroughly enjoying the occasion, loving the XKs, performed flagging away duties. Driving from Devon into Cornwall into the area known as the English Riviera, our round Britain coastal drivers could enjoy seaside towns such as Torquay, Paynton and Brixham. At Dartmouth, the historic XKs embarked on the hire ferry to cross the River Dart. With hoods down and bonnets shining in the sunshine, it provided a leisurely and an enjoyable crossing. Thence the route proceeded to hug the coastline. The next river to cross, the River Tamar, was tackled via the Tamar Bridge, which links Plymouth and Saltash. At the pretty riverside village of Bodenick, a short ferry ride took the cars over to Foy. This is a journey which links mid and east Cornwall. Giving a pleasant view of the river estuary, it was another relaxing way to save a long inland drive. It also gave a great opportunity for a close-up look at the writer Daphne du Maurier's house and savour the landscape which so inspired her works. Fans of the TV series Poldark could take a little detour in the outskirts of St Austell to Charlestown, which features as a key location in the series. Meet Jack Bacon, the first member of the Prostate Cancer UK team we roped in. Jack was to navigate for Philip. A good choice, given his local knowledge of the area. The XKs took to the waters again to cross the River Fal on the King Harry ferry, the third of the day. It gave the drivers the chance to take another break and enjoy the scenery across from St Mawes and the Roseland Peninsula to Falmouth. The intrepid travellers needed to keep an eye out on the left, between Merizion and Penzance, for the reward of a great view of the famous St Michael's Mount. The Mayor and Mayoress of Penzance, Dick and Glenys Cliff, performed the flagging away duties to mark the start of Stage 3. For today's drivers, there was another enjoyable journey ahead, through the winding roads and windswept cliffs of North Cornwall and North Devon. First port of call was the charming little village of Mousehole. That's Mouse Hole to the non-indigenous. The tiny narrow streets were another challenge for the cavalcade of XKs, but a worthwhile one, to enjoy the unspoilt charm of a Cornish fishing village. Back on the open road, it was onward to the very southwesterly point of the country, Land's End. Quite a spectacle, these XKs, as they arrived in procession along the approach and through the gate to this famous landmark and tourist spot. This was an important moment on the drive, being the most southerly point in England the XKs would drive to. It had particular significance for those doing the whole route, as many hundreds of miles hence, the arrival at John O'Groats at the tip of Scotland would confirm them as end-to-enders, the name given to those who travel from one tip of the UK to the other. Then it was out across the delightful Cornish countryside, passing fellow travellers, not least coming nose to nose with some serious horsepower. Then it was up and around, across the county border to Coombe House Hotel at Holford near Bridgewater in Somerset. There to rest. Stage 4 was to cover 4 counties: Monmouthshire, Glamorgan, Carmarthenshire and Pembrokeshire. The cars and their drivers would today experience a mix of the urban and the rural, with the industrial Bristol Channel and South Wales being passed en route to today's destination, the beautiful Pembrokeshire coast. The mood was buoyant as the travellers were flagged away by their host, hotelier Gareth Weed. Safe journey, all-rounders, John and Alison Howarth. And there go Peter and Tina Reeves, also all-rounders. That's our moniker for those who complete the entire Round Britain Coastal Drive. Crossing the Severn Bridge to take them into Wales, the drivers marvelled at one feat of British engineering whilst driving another. Once into Wales, the urban did indeed give way to the rural, with some locals hogging the road. When these interlopers had plodded on, the drivers could enjoy the open roads, the countryside, and the really pretty Welsh villages. Meet Tracy Pritchard from Prostate Cancer UK, Philip's second navigator. The happy travellers took some time to take the sea air and admire the far-reaching views of the Welsh coastline before retiring for the night in Trefloyne Manor Hotel just outside Tenby. Stage 5 promised to be one of the most scenic of the tour. Paul Lewis, owner of Evans Coolants, did the flagging away, as fittingly the Welshman Malcolm Davis, with co-driver Roger Miles, two of our all-rounders, led the way.
See you later. See you later.
Cardigan Bay didn't disappoint, and the waves rolled in as the XKs purred past. Criccieth Castle was spotted, perched on its hill. This marked the end of day 5. Here we see Peter and Tina, closely followed by Patrick Hanratty, another one of our adventurous all-rounders. They all demonstrated gutsy determination in completing the entire Round Britain coastal drive. With Bardsey Island seen as a magnificent seascape, these images capture the essence of the Round Britain coastal drive. Views, voyaging, camaraderie, and of course fun. All for the important reason of raising funds for a really worthwhile cause. Memories captured, the XKs proceeded onward, heading down towards the golden sands, and with the sky stretching out to sea, it was a beautiful day to be out and about, enjoying the drive. At the next stop, the XKs drew lots of attention, along the promenade at Llandudno. Holidaymakers were out in force, and the XKs were soon surrounded. One of the main aims of the tour is to raise awareness about prostate cancer, and to get the message out about the importance of discussing concerns. This was a great platform for doing just that. Passers-by asked questions about both the cars and the charity during a lively scene outside the St George's Hotel. It was the cable-stayed Flintshire Bridge which marked the departure from Wales. Spanning the Dee estuary, it took the explorers from Wales to the southern end of the Wirral Peninsula. Then it was on, past Liverpool to the day's destination, Lytham St Anne's. Day 7 began with Peter Stant, our trusty mechanic from SNG Barrett, performing flagging away duties at Lytham St Anne's. Here's Malcolm with co-driver Roger, safely stowed as navigator. Their mission today, as always, was to head off with a view to raising awareness and collecting donations from local businesses. Successful. Very. Hello, it's an XK on steroids. All welcome. The much-anticipated highlight of the Lake District was ahead, and most were keen to start this stage, which was full of the promise of yet more spectacular scenery. Passing Morecambe Bay, the route took the travellers to Ulverston, the perfect spot for further photography in the lovely sunshine. Stage 8 would take the fine collection of XKs over the border and into Scotland. Calaverock Castle, one of Scotland's finest medieval fortresses, stands at the southernmost edge of the Scottish kingdom, ready to defend the realm. The scenery on the drive to Ayr, with glimpses of the Isle of Arran, was a fittingly scenic introduction to the Scottish leg of the tour. On day 9, the Highlands and the Lochs were a-calling. The cars set off, passing through the Trossachs and alongside the majestic Loch Lomond. The driving was fantastic, and the views wonderful. Jimmy Stewart of Classic Fabs keeps the members interested with an overview of his company's work. Who'd have thought an exhaust system could adorn the wall as objet d'art? The visit to Classic Fab's premises was followed by a very hospitable lunch at the Ben Nevis distillery. Breathtaking. Welcome to Scotland. With wonderful Highland views at every turn, it was onward and on to the pretty seaside town of Ploughton. A feathered friend heralds the arrival of the XKs. Ploughton was the perfect place to relax by the harbour with a wee dram to mark the end of the day. Our very own Louise Gibbs was persuaded to take on the flagging away duties as the cars left Ploughton for the journey to Kinlochbervie. The day's 200-mile route would take the XKs over the Applecross Peninsula and along the pass road known as the Bealach Nabar. Patrick goes it alone, intrepid as ever, with Philip in hot pursuit. These hairpins are such an invitation. The stark beauty of the Highlands was almost otherworldly, and the views of the Skye Mountains, Outer Hebrides and Kintail Mountains to the south kept the drivers gazing in wonder. Heather-clad hills and meandering roads that skirt the lochs made the day's driving a treat. The regions of Ross-shire and Cromartyshire and Sutherland are some of the most remote and sparsely populated in the country, which certainly contributes to the dramatic vistas. As the road signs demonstrate, one is more likely to encounter livestock than another car in these parts. With mountains behind and Loch-in-Shard ahead, the Richernick Hotel was a suitably scenic place to finish the day. The cars set off, headed ever more northward and then turning to the east, John O'Groats in their sights. Travelling along the most northerly part of the country, the views continued to inspire. At John O'Groats itself, the opportunities for photographic memories of this important milestone were fully exploited. The XKs lined up in a variety of groups and formations to mark the occasion. Their owners then joined them to celebrate the achievement of making it this far. Here are John and Alison looking suitably jolly. Together with Peter and Tina, the all-rounders have now achieved a goodly part of their epic adventure. End to end as they be, fully fledged all-rounders in prospect. Next was a superb highlight of the whole journey. By kind invitation of its owner, a Jaguar enthusiast, the XKs headed in procession down the sweeping driveway of Dunbeath Castle. Sitting on the edge of the water, in the most magical setting, Dunbeath is just a remarkable sight. All enjoyed lunch in the grounds of this spectacular place and took a break from driving to soak up the wonderful atmosphere and to share tales of their Highlands adventure. Sean and Stefan Foley enjoyed the responsibility of flagging away from Inverness. Passing the battlefields of Culloden and Elgin, the route took in the coastal town of Buckie on the Moray Firth coast. At Pennan, a stop could be made to take a snap of the cars next to the telephone box made famous in the film Local Hero. The lovely coastal resort of Montrose, with its beautiful stretch of sandy beach, was the day's final destination. Day 13 took the travellers back over the border into England, passing Dundee and St Andrews. Another under-the-bonnet puzzler for Dutch members Henke Verku and Irvin Gunst. A little discussion with Malcolm, in impeccable English of course, and it's all sorted. Crossing the Forth Suspension Bridge towards Edinburgh in less than perfect weather, the route then hugged the last of the Scottish coast. Mayor Councillor Gregor Roughhead kindly flagged away the XKs to mark the start of Day 14. The rugged countryside of north-east England lay ahead. Bags were packed and instruments were checked. The day's route was to take them through Northumberland and Yorkshire. Standing tall to defend the coastline, Bamborough Castle could be spotted on high. Brooding Gothic abbey and a whalebone arch could be spotted at Whitby, hinting at the whaling fleets of the past. The final destination of the day was the elegant market town of Beverley, where there was another photo opportunity for the XKs to sparkle in the summer sunshine. Here we see Mayor Councillor Anne Willis flagging away the cars. Withensea brought the unusual sight of a lighthouse not out at sea, but in the middle of the town. Now a museum of local history and the RNLI, it was a surprising inland sight. Crossing the Humber Bridge from Hull, the cavalcade was majestic. Cromer, the birthplace of Malcolm Sayer and home of the famously delicious Cromer crab, was the day's final destination. The daily discussion about the route took place in the grounds of Northrop's Cottage Country Hotel. Last-minute tinkering took place and engines were tuned. Luxembourger and founder member Goy Feltis picks up the navigating for Philip today. Deputy Mayor, Councillor David Pritchard, flagged away from Cromer to mark the start of Day 16. Lined up here are the 6 mighty XKs of the All-Rounders, the members who decided to embark on this epic 18-day adventure in its entirety. The All-Rounders are Patrick, Malcolm and Roger, Philip with today's navigator Goy, Tina and Peter, John and Alison, and Guy and Rosie Soden. They have demonstrated real fortitude during this character-building event. The town of Southwold, with its pier and beachside walks, was charming. Drivers again took the opportunity to take some sea air. The XKs meandered along the Suffolk coast and on into Essex. Whilst in Essex, the drive headed to Malden, home of JD Classics, where a drinks reception and tour of the splendid premises was both enjoyable and fascinating. Derek Hood of JD Classics and Mayor Jeanette Stiles flagged away from the premises in the morning. Spirits were high for the penultimate day of the tour, which would take the drivers away from Essex, across the Thames at the Dartford crossing and into the Garden of England, Kent. Passing through the coastal resort of Southend, colourful beach huts and windmills lined the route. In Margate, the statue of a sailor looked out to sea, and the Art Deco sign of the Lido spoke of the seaside's past. The drivers took some time to stop for photographs of a coastal landmark, the famous White Cliffs of Kent. Then it was on, past Dover Castle, to the Bannatyne Hotel Hastings, which was the venue for the final night stay of the tour. All-rounders Guy and Rosie strapping in for the day's drive. Full of anticipation for what was the last day of the tour, the drivers were in high spirits and looking forward to savouring the last leg. They were flagged away by Councillor Bruce Dowling, destination Bewley, where it all began. Here we see 2 of the wonderful Prostate Cancer UK volunteers. In each of the areas we visited throughout the drive, volunteers from the charity were on hand to help. Chris Keith Lucas, founder and technical director of CKL Developments, hosts the party and introduces the group to the business. XK owners could pose plenty of questions to these restoration experts. With some stunning cars to view in the state-of-the-art premises, there was plenty on display to inspire the visitors. Then the route took the drivers onwards, towards the golden domes of Eastbourne Pier, along the historic seafront and past its Victorian architecture. The views approaching Beachy Head, the famous chalk headland, were delightful. The distinctive hue of the commemorative beanie. It has to be the all-rounders. Confirmed. With a stop at Twyford Moors, family-owned and run ex-case specialists and restorers, there were refreshments and an opportunity to see more fine ex-cases on display. The group also had chance to discuss their cars and those on splendid show with fellow enthusiasts and experts, including hosts Nick and Harry Roche. Then it was the final procession back to Bewley, through the wonderful New Forest. And here are Caroline Galately and Jack Bacon from Prostate Cancer UK greeting triumphant participants as they entered the gates. The on-tour entertainment was par for the course, right to the bitter end. 18 days of wonderful coastal driving and shared experiences had come to an end. The fundraising continues, the total to date being £70,000. A marvellous achievement and fabulous fun for all involved.